what we're going to be doing is allowing our candidates to speak for 2 minutes with an introductory statement, and they'll speak from the podium. And then we'll move into questions. And questions will have, for each candidate, will have 90 seconds. And I'm a tough taskmaster, so I won't let you go beyond your 90 seconds. So, Deborah, would you like to begin?
Thank you. Do I need to use the microphone?
Yes.
Yes. A resounding yes. First and foremost, I would like to thank you for putting this forum on together. This is a wonderful opportunity for me to introduce myself so that you all know Deborah Boronski. And again, thank you for the opportunity. So a little bit about me, Deborah Boronski. My first career was in human services. I worked at Belchertown State School where I learned sign language to help some of our most severely disabled people learn to communicate their most basic needs. I later went to Sunshine Village and found jobs for people with disabilities. This was not only a humble beginning to my career in the work life, but it also led to my desire to be an advocate for people. Advocating for the disabled is truly humbling. And it led me to my first career as a Chamber of Commerce executive, where for 10 years I was the president of the Massachusetts Chicopee Chamber of Commerce, providing services for our small business community, helping them to grow and prosper, helping families work, live, and do a better job in the communities that they lived. I later went to the Springfield Chamber and later founded the Massachusetts Chamber of Commerce, where I have been for 8 years. I'm an advocate for small business. I work tirelessly trying to help our small business community deal with the regulations that we inflict upon them, making it so difficult for them to succeed, to grow, to hire our sons and daughters. So my job is in making our communities better. I believe that as your state senator, I can take my 25 plus years of advocacy for people and communities and put that to work immediately when I sit at the table. I have been a successful advocate for small business and communities as a selectman, as a member of the Housing Authority Board, as a member of the Municipal Retirement Board. I have a master's degree, a single mom, I've had 2 mortgages. I have a pretty diverse offering for someone who will serve as your next state senator, and I greatly appreciate again the opportunity for you to get to meet me. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Eric Lesser. I'm running for state senate. I first want to thank Sinai Temple and thank Rabbi Shapiro for having us. I grew up here at Sinai Temple. My dad's with me. Sinai Temple is where I was bar mitzvah. It's where, willingly or not, I came to Sunday school and Hebrew school twice a week for most of my childhood. I was confirmed here. I was a member of SPIFTY. I was the president of SPIFTY back in the day, so had some fun times in this very room here with Jeff's daughters I grew up with as well, Talia and Elizabeth. Both my sisters also grew up here at Sinai, bar mitzvah here, and Rabbi Shapiro also married Allison and I, so we have a lot of fond memories here. And I want to talk about that and that topic today, which is families, and keeping our families here in Western Massachusetts. You know, my father, who many of you know, he went from driving a cab in New York City to treating patients. He taught me that if you work hard and keep your head down, that anything is possible. But we also know that that promise, that opportunity to work your way into the middle class is breaking down. It's especially breaking down here in Western Mass. You know, Massachusetts is a unique state in that the political center and the population center are all concentrated in Boston. You know, in New York you have Albany, New York City. In California you have Sacramento, LA. Here everything's concentrated in Boston. So we really need to fight to make sure that we have a seat at the table. We really need to fight to make sure that our voices are heard. And the way that we do that is by organizing. That's how I got my start here at Sinai, the Religious Action Center. I learned that in this building, the importance of Tikkun Olam, repairing the world, fighting for your values. And so, as we move forward in the rest of this debate, I want to talk about the specifics of what we need to do to make our region competitive. Investments in education, high-speed rail between Boston and Springfield, workforce development, and all those good things we'll jump into now.
Told you. So we're going to begin questions. The first question is for Eric Lesser. Your bio says that you are pursuing a law degree in the Boston area. It has been stated that your wife also maintains a law practice in Cambridge. How do you intend to be a full-time state senator, living in and representing the people in your district, while being a father and husband, all while balancing your pursuit of a law degree so far away from home? And Eric will have 90 seconds to answer.
So my bio is no secret. I'm very proud of it. I grew up here in Long Meadow. I went to Sinai Temple. After graduating from Long Meadow High School, I went to Harvard, where I studied government. After that, I took a job at the absolute bottom of the ladder, working for the Obama presidential campaign back in 2007. I actually was in charge of carrying all the suitcases around during that first campaign. I ended up working 40 feet from the Oval Office and then working for the President's Council of Economic Advisors. From there, I came back to Massachusetts because I wanted to come home. Thought it was important to continue a law degree to actually learn the impact of laws once they're passed on people. And that's what I've been studying in law school. And yes, I am at Harvard Law School. I have 3 classes left. And it's actually pretty common, believe it or not, for members of the legislature to work on law degrees while they're in the State House. With 3 classes left, it'll be manageable. I met with the dean of Harvard Law School, and we worked out a plan for how to do it. And it's only 3 classes, so it'll only take about 4 months to finish up. And as for my wife and my daughter, we are busy. Like a lot of families, we've got a lot going on. We're juggling 2 careers, a young family. But we make it work. We've got great support. I've got my mother and my father that live here that help us. In fact, my mother's watching our daughter right now, which is great for us, and it's a win-win for everyone. It gives us a little space, and she loves it too. So, so we'll make it work.
Thank you, Eric. So, Deborah, you currently run the Massachusetts Chamber of Commerce. Do you plan to resign that position in order to be a full-time state senator if you get elected?
Absolutely. Oh, are we on? Yes. Oh. Are you counting my time right now?
Oh,
Hello? Thank you.
Okay, now you're
ready? So yes, I will resign my position. As a matter of fact, for those of you who don't know, I do have a company called Chamber Management Services. I have 3 fabulous employees. And while I've been campaigning, I've been allowing Noel Myers, who is one of my key people, to run that company. Campaigning is a very active opportunity for both of us, isn't it, Eric? Pretty busy. So she's been running my company. She is ready, willing, and able, and quite anxious to take over the company for me when I'm elected to the state senate. So it is a resounding yes.
Okay. Yes, that's a good idea. Eric, question for you. More than 80% of the $300,000 plus in campaign funds you have raised and disclosed to date have come from outside our district, Washington, D.C. based and other fundraising. The sheer volume of out-of-district money would seem to beg the question of your sensitivity and allegiance to local residents and businesses, and your independence from outside interests. Please comment.
I'm glad you asked this question. A couple of facts. I've raised more money from inside the district for more people than any of my opponents, both in the primary and in the general election. So I have more support from more people inside the district than any of my opponents. And then I'll just ask a question. How many people in the room either have children, family members, colleagues, former colleagues who don't live in Massachusetts? Maybe they live in Connecticut or New York. Raise your hand if you know someone, have a colleague, a friend, a family member. Exactly. So that's as I talked about in my bio, I attended Harvard University, both for my undergrad and for my law school. I worked for the President of the United States. I'm proud of that service, and I'm proud that people who I've worked with in my career are supporting me and are enthusiastic about this campaign. You know, if people who had worked with me in the past weren't supporting me, that would raise other questions, wouldn't it? So I'm proud of that support. And, you know, I want to just get to the heart of that issue. You know, I grew up here in Sinai Temple. I'm raising my family here. I've chosen to come home, and that's where my loyalty and that's where my dedication is going to be.
Deborah, would you comment on the controversy surrounding your alleged failure to file an ethics and lobbying disclosure? Did you, in fact, neglect to make these state-required reports? If so, why?
Thank you so much. Here's the form. We were just talking earlier, someone was asking about the Department of Defense and what you have to go through on an online application to certify and become active. This is a 29-question online questionnaire, and 2 of those questions were not saved properly when I clicked Save Next Forward. One of the questions was, am I running for state senator? Yes. So there were 2 errors, my fault entirely. When I found out about them, I fixed them. They're perfectly fine. Certainly a much bigger deal than we need to make of. But if anyone would like to see those 29 questions, I do have a copy right here for you to take a look at, happily. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to shake it up a little bit and ask both of you if you have a question for your opponent. You can choose who answers first.
You know, there's been a lot of talk about all the ballot questions that are coming up in addition to voting for governor, lieutenant governor, state senate. There's also, of course, several ballot questions, one of which is on paid sick time. The ballot question asks whether or not you would support allowing paid sick time for workers in Massachusetts. 40% of the workers in Springfield and about 40% of the workers in Chicopee, 2 cities in our district, do not have any allotted paid sick time. If a family member or if they themselves become ill in a job, many have to quit or get laid off or fired as a result of that. I will be voting in favor of requiring paid sick time. I believe that that's an important right to protect our workers, and I will be voting in favor, but I couldn't be more clear on it, and I couldn't be in more support of it. It also includes a carve-out for small businesses, so our small businesses will still be protected. So this is a measure directed at large businesses in our area. So I'm curious, what your position is on that ballot question.
Thank you for asking, Eric. I support paid sick time under certain circumstances. Right now, the law, the way it's being presented, I believe needs to be tweaked a little bit. I think we need to be a little more, have a little more conversation about at what point you earn your sick time. So I know that when I get hired, you have to work for so many months before you earn a vacation day, and you work for so many months before you earn a sick day. It's logical that we would simply look at the law. So I support people being paid for sick time. I simply would like us to adjust. I'd also like us to be a little more creative. As a single mother, I needed flexible time, not sick time. So I think you need to give employers and employees an opportunity to negotiate what that benefit might be. And right now, the way the law is being written, it's very straightforward. There's no room for negotiation between an employee and an employer. And again, I wouldn't have wanted paid sick time. I would have much preferred flexible time. So I think we need to leave the door open so that people can be more creative with how they work together. Obviously, as an employer, I want very much to have my employees happy.
Okay.
Good?
Thank you. Thank you. Eric, you asked for.
Just a quick follow-up. On the ballot question specifically, will you be voting yes or no?
No.
No.
Okay. So I'm going to interject a card from the floor to shake it up a little bit. And yes, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I got distracted. Please do. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I'm sure that was just an oversight.
I'm trying to multitask here with the time.
I'm kidding. Okay, so we all know that this political game is very interesting, isn't it? I've learned a great deal in the last 3 months. But my credibility and transparency has been called into question. And I have answered it, I believe, quite successfully. I've even put my taxes on my website so that you can go to my website, click, and see them. I've asked my opponent to make his taxes available. He says that they've been made public, but I can't find them anywhere. So I'd like to ask my opponent if today he would ask his IT department, who's quite capable, your website's lovely, to put those taxes up so that we can all click and see those documents.
As Ms. Boronski herself knows, for the last 5 years, I've been very upfront about what I've been doing. I've either been in law school or I've been a federal employee. My income from my time at the White House is a matter of public record. You can Google it. There was also, of course, a hearing during the primary that the State Ballot Law Commission put on. All of my tax documents were submitted as part of public record during that entire hearing. Tyler from your staff was at that hearing when all of that tax documentation was presented. And, you know, quite frankly, I don't think this is something that's of particular concern to the voters of our district. I think people are much more concerned about what our feelings are on education, on infrastructure, on how we train our workers. That's what my focus has been upon. While you've continually focused on me and where I've been living and what I've been doing, I'm focused on you. I'm focused on the voters of this district. I'm the only candidate with a plan for high-speed rail between Boston and Springfield. It's achievable. We can do it. I'm the only candidate with a 4-point plan for combating the heroin addiction crisis, which has been ravaging our communities. I'm the only candidate with a plan for talent retention, keeping our young people here in Hampden County by creating a tech district, spurring more innovation, attracting more entrepreneurship. Those are the things that we're focused on, and those are the things that I'm going to be working on. You know, the back and forth, you know, it's fine. I've released my taxes already, and they're available to see in public record. Let's focus on issues.
So the answer is no, you will not put them on your website.
When I'm asked for specific information, I will provide it. I was asked by a reporter for the tax returns, I gave him the tax returns. My website is talking about my positions and my op-eds on the issues, so no, I will not be posting my tax returns on my website.
Thank you. Deborah, excuse me for my jumping ahead, but the next question for both of you, and you will lead off, is do you have any ideas to increase physician recruitment in Western Massachusetts?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we need to change the laws so that our physicians aren't terrified of making an assessment on someone. Our physicians go above and beyond because they're afraid of being sued for malpractice. And we're chasing them out of our state. It's a terrible situation. I applaud those physicians who have maintained their practices here in Massachusetts. I also believe that our Affordable Health Care Act has created some serious situations for all of our medical professionals, and I think that that's something that we absolutely have to look at. We are losing our doctors by the dozens, and we have people who cannot find healthcare providers here in Massachusetts. It's a serious situation, and it absolutely needs to be addressed.
Thank you.
This is an issue that's personal for me. My father is a family practice doctor in Holyoke. My mother is a clinical social worker, also in Holyoke. My sister is training to be a psychologist. She right now is studying in Boston. We'd love to get her home to the greater Springfield area. This is an essential issue, and there's several components to it. One is we need to take a careful look at our healthcare policies and how we're making it harder and harder and harder for doctors to do their jobs. The other piece is we need to take a holistic approach to how we make our area attractive for professionals to come and to stay and to raise their families. And that includes a broader basket of things that we need to take on: infrastructure, education. We need to be serious about public safety. Just recently I met with a group of Springfield police officers doing very innovative work in Forest Park, which is where Sinai Temple is located, the badge unit, for example, that does a lot of innovative community policing work. We need to make sure that those programs are expanded because they're working, getting police officers into the community. We need to make sure that our public schools are attractive to professionals so that they locate and they stay here. So I agree, attracting, retaining doctors is an essential issue, but we also have to make sure we're attracting and retaining professionals more broadly.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Where do each of you stand on increasing the income tax, gas tax, and/or the sales tax to cover ballooning state expenditures? Deborah, do you want to go?
Thank you. I am opposed to increasing any tax automatically. I believe that our state government is wealthy, that we don't spend responsibly. And I am the only candidate who has a 6-point plan, because I guess that's better than 5, I don't know, on how to make state government more efficient, more responsive, and less costly. Every plan that my opponent is presenting will cost tax dollars. And I believe we already pay enough in taxes. I believe we can make great things happen for this state if we can simply help our government spend our resources more responsibly. I have copies of my plan here. Happy to share it. It's also on my website. There are ways that the public sector saves money every single day, and we as a state government can put those resources and those ideas to work and save millions of dollars here in the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric?
So the number one thing that we need to do is make sure that the taxes that we already collect are spent wisely and spent efficiently, and that government resources are directed to where they're needed the most and where they have the biggest impact. That is a top level value and a very important criteria I will have when evaluating programs in the states. And I want to just talk quickly again about economic policy. I believe in fairness, and I believe in balance in our tax system. Right now, our tax structure is very unfair to middle-class families and to middle-class businesses. And the reason is because we have lobbyists on Beacon Hill. My opponent is a registered lobbyist, which he's conveniently left out in the discussions about transparency. A registered lobbyist who writes carve-outs for corporations at the expense of middle-class families. That is not fair, and that is a value I will not embrace in the state Senate, because every carve-out that gets written for a corporation comes right out of the pockets of middle-class people whose taxes go up. And that is not fair, and that is a value that I will bring to the state Senate, and I will make sure that when we walk into the State House, and it's time for those negotiations with Stan Rosenberg, the Senate President, and the different committees and the budgets being written, that the value of fairness to the middle class is number one on my priority. That will be my focus.
Thank you. So just a reminder, we are delighted that some of you are asking questions on these green cards. We have a bunch of them, so if you'd like to ask a question, please do it soon so that we can fit it into the program. Next, there is an affordable housing crisis here in Massachusetts, disproportionately impacting Western Massachusetts. It has been reported that the crisis may be exacerbated by the potential for housing illegal alien children at Westover Air Force Base. What proposals do you have to address this crisis? How would your proposals be implemented and paid for?
Thank you so much. We have a serious affordable housing situation here, a serious one, especially for our seniors. I've been to all of the senior centers here in Western Mass, and one of the biggest concerns they have is finding a place that they can live. I was opposed to bringing the illegal immigrants to Westover. I'm opposed to it because we have 20,000 homeless and hungry families here in Massachusetts, and we're not taking care of them. And how can we, on a sinking ship, bring on more passengers? Which brings me back to my plan to make government more efficient, more effective, and more costly. We have the resources we need to provide services for the people in need, for our sons and daughters, for our elderly, for our veterans. We're doing a poor job of that. And I would like to go to Boston and sit at the table and have that common sense, business-minded conversation that is sorely lacking. I would also like to share that I have a list of more than 30 lobbying firms that have donated to my opponent. And my opponent knows that I am mandated to be a registered lobbyist because I'm a director of a non-profit organization. You know that, and it's very disappointing, Eric, that you continue to be so disingenuous when talking about a lobbyist. Lobbyists are good when they donate to your campaign, but bad when they're your opponent. So I would like to share this list and let you know what some of the lobbying firms who have donated to Eric specialize.
Opened up 12 trains a day between Boston and Worcester now that are going back and forth. It's transformed downtown Worcester. Anybody who's been down there can probably appreciate there's market rate housing, there's new restaurants, there's new businesses, there's families located down there. They stopped the line in Worcester. Why did they stop it in Worcester? It's the same thing we've always seen year after year. Beacon Hill forgets we exist beyond Worcester. I'm ready to fight for a high-speed rail line. Is it going to happen overnight? Of course it's not going to happen overnight, but we can push and we can work on it and we can move the ball forward. And we have a unique opportunity with Congressman Richie Neal securing federal funding, Stan Rosenberg, the first Senate president in a generation from Western Mass, championing this issue. Both of them support me. I've spoken with both of them about this issue at length, and we're ready to work together to make it happen.
Thank you. Again, on a little bit different note, what ideas do you have to improve cleaning up the Connecticut River?
What a great question. The Connecticut River is a beautiful, beautiful resource that we don't take advantage of. There have been many proposals with my work through the Pioneer Valley Convention and Visitors Bureau that we've worked to bring grants together and put forward for more boating, more fishing, more family-oriented opportunities. We have a phenomenal resource, hotels looking to be built in the area, but we need ideas behind that, big ideas. I'm going to steal that from you, Eric. We need big ideas behind how we're going to develop that property. We need our local municipal officials to work with our state officials and our federal officials to make sure that we can pull together the resources and the ideas behind what that should look like. Because I know what I would like to see there, but I am one person. There are many people here who probably have wonderful ideas about what that should look like. First and foremost, a clean river is what we're looking for. How we go about doing that is not for me personally to decide. I will tell you now that as your state senator, I don't know everything. Can you believe it? I don't know everything. But what I do know is that you bring qualified people together and you create conversation and you facilitate good, meaningful, qualified conversation, you come up with those answers. I am skilled at facilitating conversation through my work with boards of directors and chambers of commerce. It's what I do, and I would welcome the opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I grew up fishing on the Connecticut River. My dad and I grew up spending time down there. We still do. Bring my daughter there all the time. It's an untapped resource for our area. I am the environmental candidate in this race. I was endorsed by the Environmental League of Massachusetts. I've been endorsed by the Clean Water Action Fund of Massachusetts. I've been endorsed by the Massachusetts Environmental Action League, which is different than the Environmental League of Massachusetts. I know they have similar names, but the environmental groups that have a stake in our future here, that have a stake in Western Massachusetts, support me. There are things like, we just recently got designation for the Connecticut River to be a National Heritage River. There's programs like that on a federal and a state level we can work on to fund cleanups. It would be great one day to have swimming, regularly allowed and safe in the Connecticut River in all parts of the river. That could stimulate more tourism, bring more people into the area. We should make it safe for fishing. We're getting closer to that. Sometimes that's allowed at this point, but there's more that we can do to clean those funds, those up, and it's going to take collaboration on the federal level and on the state level and on the local level to get that done, and that's what I'm ready to do. And I've already begun having conversations with the Environmental League of Massachusetts Clean Water Action Fund to do just that.
Thank you. So just to give you an update on where we are, we're about halfway through our allotted time. We have a couple of green card questions, a couple of the questions from before. I encourage you to ask your questions on the green cards. Ellen is collecting them so that we can finish up in our allotted time, within our allotted time. So next question. Massachusetts is proud to be one of the leaders in increasing the minimum wage. Some people want a $15 an hour minimum wage. Would you speak to your feelings on increasing the minimum wage and its effect on the economy? Do you feel that there is a way to address increasing the minimum wage without driving business out of the state? If so, how? Okay.
I'm so happy for that question. I don't like the minimum wage. I like the living wage. No one can live on minimum wage, whether it's $11 an hour or $15 an hour. That is a beginning job wage. That's the job that you pay my grandson to scoop ice cream after school in the summer. It is a beginning wage. It is not a living wage. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know that a single mother with one child on welfare, receiving full welfare benefits, would have to get a job paying $56,000 a year in order to get off welfare? What is minimum wage going to do to help her? We have a serious problem here in the state, and minimum wage is simply going to tax your gallon of milk and your loaf of bread. It's simply a tax that's disguised. I want to pay my employees well more than $15, and I do, as a matter of fact. Minimum wage is not the answer. A living wage is what we need to strive for. And striving for minimum wage means taking care of our small business community, stopping the regulation and the mandate, the mandate that we continue to place on them. Massachusetts is a D-rated community as far as being business friendly. That's where we need to start. Thank you.
I think that answer indicates just a little bit how out of touch, Ms. Boronski, that answer is with the economy. Right now, people earning minimum wage, it's not just kids scooping ice cream. It's not just entry-level workers. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of families in this district who are trying to support their families on the minimum wage, who are trying to support their children and sometimes extended relatives on the minimum wage. I don't think that that's fair. I support an increase in the minimum wage, a reasonable increase that is worked on in collaboration with local businesses is essential. Because I think a few dollar increase from $8 to $12, for example, which you've previously described as a tax, is not a tax. I think that's make or break for a lot of families in our community. And I think that's make or break for a lot of people who are trying to get ahead. And it's ultimately less expensive to have a fair minimum wage. Because if people are able to save a little bit, people are able to support their families, their kids. That's less money that's demanded in social programs on the other side. So I think this is an essential issue of fairness for our families who are trying to get ahead. And there are thousands of people who aren't taking a first job as a teenager. I made minimum wage too. Even though I'm Jewish, I worked at a Christmas tree farm in summers for several years.
10 seconds.
But I made minimum wage at that job, but I was a kid. That's a different story. There are a lot of people in their 40s, 50s, 60s struggling on the minimum wage. We need to have their backs. I will have their backs.
Thank you. Now, this next question may sound a little bit repetitive, but I'm going to read through the whole thing. Please tell us a bit more about your connections to the area, work history in the area, property ownership, civic engagement. Debbie? Great. Thank you.
I only have 90 seconds, huh?
Only 90 seconds.
Okay, can you repeat the question one more time?
Sure. Please tell us a bit more about your connections to the area, work history in the area, property ownership, civic engagement.
Great.
And I'm starting you now.
Thank you very much. So I have had the privilege of living and working in 8 of the 9 cities and towns in the district that I hope to represent. I have served, as I said, at Belchertown State School. I worked for the Chicopee Chamber of Commerce, the Springfield Chamber of Commerce. I owned 2 homes in the city of Chicopee. My son went through public schools here. I was a single mom, as I mentioned, so I raised him on my own from the time that he was 8. I went to college on the weekends at Cambridge College, got my master's degree. I've served on the board of directors for numerous nonprofit organizations, went to Guatemala and built houses with Habitat for Humanity. I'm a very active, engaged member of my community, both as a civic leader, as a community volunteer, and as a concerned citizen. My involvement with the business community has been where much of my time has been spent. But as I mentioned earlier, I've been on the board of directors for the Board of Selectmen in East Longmeadow, the Housing Authority Board, the Chicopee Municipal Retirement Board. I'm a very active and engaged person in this community, and I have the skill set to go to Boston and advocate for everyone's needs when I sit down at the table on day one. I thank you for asking that question. This is a job that we're applying for after all, isn't it? And if you were sitting me down and saying, I'm going to pay you to represent me, show me your resume, I'd be pleased to show it to you. Thank you.
It's a very impressive list, Deb, and it's curious that none of them were listed on your ethics form when you submitted it to the state, but that's another topic. A little bit on my background. I grew up here, attended public schools here in Longmeadow, went to Blueberry Hill School, Williams Middle School, Longmeadow High School. After graduating from public schools, I made my way to Harvard University where I studied government. After that, I worked for 4 years in public service. I spent a portion of that time working for the White House Council of Economic Advisors, working on what I think is the fundamental question of my generation, the fundamental question for us here in Western Massachusetts, which is that in an economy where a 19-year-old can become a billionaire by inventing an iPhone app, how do you create an economy that works for everybody else? How do you create an economy where you're still growing and investing in the middle class? That was the name of the game around here for generations. American Bosch, Indian Motorcycles. No one was going to get rich working in those positions, but if you got a job there, you could save, you could buy a house, you could give your kids a better life than you had. And so after working in public service in Washington, I came home. I came home to raise my family back here in Western Mass because it's a great place to grow up. It's a great place to raise a family. We all know that. But we also know that that promise, that opportunity is increasingly slipping away, and that we need to fight to change that, to make our area a magnet for young families again.
Thank you, Eric. Next question. And this is pretty much last call. If you want to ask another question, remember, write it on the green card and Ellen will collect it. Okay. There is a question on the ballot pegging the gas tax rate to the rate of inflation. Are you in favor of that? If so, have you considered the impact of raising taxes on Massachusetts residents, disproportionately affecting the poor and middle class? What remedies would you propose? Deborah.
Thank you. So I am opposed, as I said earlier, to any automatic increase. I think that our elected officials must answer every time and vote every time if they are proposing a tax increase. I think it's only fair that a ballot call take place. And again, I'm going to point to the plan that I've written and how to make our state government more efficient, more effective, and more user-friendly, which for any of us who have tried to fill out a form online, we can probably speak to how unfriendly it is. I feel strongly that, again, we have the resources that we need as a state. As a businesswoman who's worked with thousands of businesses over the past 25 years, I know that there are programs in place that we can use as a state to start saving money and turning money back to our cities and towns. We need to increase local aid, especially in Longmeadow, where you've pretty much tapped out your ability to tax people and build on business. Without additional state aid, Longmeadow has no more growth, and your taxes will have to continue to raise. This plan outlines how other cities and states have used the practice of lean, which is the taking apart and putting back together of programs and services, and saved millions of dollars.
10 seconds.
Thank you, for their local communities. So I ask that you take a look at this and let me know what your thoughts are. Thank you.
Thank you.
So on the gas tax question, I'll make it very clear. I am against indexing the gas tax to inflation. I will not vote, or I will vote to repeal it. I do not support having it pegged to inflation, and here's why. That tax is not fair to Western Massachusetts, and I don't support taxes that are unfair and disproportionate to middle-class families. Here's why it's unfair. We drive more in Western Massachusetts than families in Eastern Massachusetts. We also have less public transportation options when the price of gas goes up. So what that means is when the price of gas goes up, a disproportionate share is taken out of middle-class families in Western Mass's pockets than those in Eastern Mass. I don't support unfair taxation. We have vital infrastructure needs. I talked about the need for high-speed rail. We've discussed the I-91 viaduct project. We have urgent infrastructure needs here in Western Mass. We need to fund them in a fair way. We need to fund them in a way that's fair to our families in the whole state, especially here in Western Massachusetts. And the gas tax inflation pegging, as it's currently written, is not fair to Western Mass, to families here in Western Massachusetts who are more dependent, of course, on car transportation, with less alternatives when the price goes up than Eastern Mass families.
Thank you. Such cooperative candidates. Aren't they? Both of them. So, this is our last question. After this question, after our candidates answer this question, I'm going to give them the opportunity to make a summary statement for 2 minutes. You have 30 seconds more this time. For 2 minutes, and then we'll be concluding. So, okay. Please be specific about the economic impact, jobs, and other ideas to stimulate the economy in Springfield and its surrounding areas. Additionally, as part of the question, what is your position on casinos in Massachusetts? Deborah.
Thank you for that great last question, whoever asked it. So I am in support of keeping the Springfield Casino. And I'm in support of it because it was voted on and it was decided. Let me preface that by saying I don't think the jobs that we're going to get from that casino are the jobs that we deserve. They're jobs nonetheless, and it's really hard to say no to 3,000 jobs, which is why I'm supporting it. The jobs that we need are the jobs that our small business community creates. And I will go back to my skills and my record in creating thousands of jobs over the past 25 years in working for Chambers of Commerce. We must support our small businesses. Look at Teddy Hebert from Teddy Bear Pools and Spas. He started in his garage at his mom's house, and look at the successful business he has today. Look at all of the local people. Yankee Candle started making candles in his garage. We supported that company. They grew. That's what we need to do here in Western Mass. We need to encourage our small businesses to invest and innovate. We need to make sure that we don't have regulations that are hindering those businesses who currently exist and keeping them, thank you, and keeping them from growing and prospering. We need to encourage and support and advocate for our small businesses, precision manufacturing, etc., so that they can grow and prosper. Thank you.
So on the casino, I do not support the repeal. So I will be voting no on the repeal. They worded it in a confusing way, but I'll be voting no on the repeal. Here's why. I think it sets a very dangerous precedent for issues of local concern, and regardless of what our opinions on the casino might be, I think we can all agree that it's principally going to impact the people in Springfield and the communities right around Springfield. I don't think issues of principally local concern like that should be thrown open to popular referendum, because what that essentially does is it gives Eastern Mass veto power over Western Mass. 85% of the population is in Eastern Massachusetts. So if we throw this open to a popular referendum, we set a dangerous precedent for ourselves, which is that local issues here in the Springfield area get decided by the state as a whole, and that's not fair. So I don't support that. I think my feeling is let's make sure that the process of the casino is done correctly. MGM has made a lot of promises, in exchange for that license. Let's hold them to it. Make sure we get the maximum benefit we can, and then frankly, let's move on to all the other big things we need to do to stimulate our economy here. The things I've been talking about through this whole debate and through the beginning of this campaign: high-speed rail, improving high-tech manufacturing, expanding our job training programs, investing in our community colleges. Those are the things that are going to create middle-class opportunity. Those are the things that are going to stimulate long-term growth here in our area. And that's the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of my economic plan. It's those big, important things we need to do to shake things up a little bit and stimulate more growth, more middle-class growth here in the greater Springfield area. Thank you.
Thank you. So, since when the coin was tossed, Deborah got the crown and got to start a lead off. I'm going to let Eric lead off with his summary comments. And you have 2 minutes, a little bit more, to speak.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really been special to have this debate here at Sinai, where I grew up. A lot of memories in this room. I was remembering it. I had my bar mitzvah in this room. It was over there, but the party was in here. I'm pretty sure Talia was there. So it means a lot, to have the debate here, discussion here. We have big challenges ahead of us here in Western Mass. UMass just put a study out that says that in the next 15 years, 28,000 people are going to leave the greater Springfield area. 28,000. That's 28,000 less people shopping in our stores, starting their own businesses, working in our companies. We have got to reverse that trend, and we can reverse that trend, because this is a great place to live. This is a great place to grow up. We've got great resources. We've got great talent. We need to make sure we're making the most of it. And we can do that by investing in our infrastructure, by stimulating high-tech manufacturing, which has been a backbone of our economy here, by investing in our community colleges and our local businesses, by better integrating ourselves with the growing economies just to our east and just to our south. In a lot of parts of Massachusetts, times are really good. The growth rates have never been higher. We've been left out of that. We need to bridge that gap. High-speed rail, high-tech manufacturing, creating a tech district in Hampden County, fostering more entrepreneurship, more innovation in our economy. Those are the things we need to do, and we can do. But it's not going to happen if we stick to the same old thing we've always done. It's not going to happen if we do the same thing and expect a different result. There's a very special person to me here, my wife and my father are of course here, but Vivian Morse, a teacher of mine from Long Meadow High School. In 2002, we were threatened with a recession. 40 teachers were threatened with layoff, including Vivian Morse. We put a plan together, knocked on every door, save Vivian Morse's job. We did that then, we can do that now, but it's not going to happen if we stick to the same old thing we've always done.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. I too want to say thank you. You all have some walking to do out there. I see some of you coming in with your sneakers on. I didn't wear the appropriate shoes to participate in the walk afterwards. But I do thank you for the opportunity to at least have you meet me and hear some of my views. It's a welcomed opportunity. So in 2 weeks you have to go and vote. And as I said, you have a choice. You are hiring someone to go to Boston and represent you and make the best possible decisions on the 9 cities and towns that we hope to represent. So you need to make sure that when that person sits down that they will, 1, be welcomed at the table, 2, be part of a conversation that needs to be adult and take place in a meaningful manner. I have worked with every mayor, city councilman, elected official, and have deep and close relationships with the people in Boston now. When I sit at the table, I will be taken seriously, I will be respected, and I will bring with me the knowledge that I need to have to advocate for the 9 cities and towns that I will be charged with representing. I'm here applying for the job. I've given you my credentials. I've been transparent, I've been honest, and I'm asking you to hire me on November 4th when you go to the ballot. Hire me because I am the most qualified candidate. I have given my life here in this district for 25 plus years, working, living, raising my son, dedicating myself to nonprofits and communities. It is a long list. I've been here a while, and I'm dedicated to continuing the service that I've given to you over these years. So I'll finish early to make you all even happier. Thank you again so much for the opportunity, and have a great, great weekend.
Thank you, Deborah, Eric. You've been so articulate and so warm. I know I speak for everyone here. It's been wonderful to hear your thoughts.